What's up, Stark? Back with another episode of the podcast here at ZOE Farms. Really excited to be here today with the owner, Dustin Schnabel. Thank you for having us today.
More than welcome.
So this is quite the operation. I know Dan and I were walking around beforehand, and every time I've been here, it seems to grow a little bit more. But if we can kind of start with the origin story and how you got into this. I know.
How long do we have?
We don't have. Let's say in the Cliff's Notes version.
Let's just put it this way. Raising livestock has been in my life most of my life. We used to raise buffalo here 25 years ago,
Oh, wow.
And interestingly enough, we used to sell buffalo meat out of that caboose. And to make a long story short, I got really tired of sitting in that caboose waiting for people to come by and buy 20 pounds, $20 worth of buffalo meat. So about 1998, 1999, around the time when a guy named Jeff Bezos said, I'm going to change the world by selling books online, I started selling buffalo meat online, okay? And fast forward to 5 years after that, had our first child. I had a near-miss accident with the buffalo and got out of the buffalo business. Went into the fitness industry. And I was in the fitness industry for about 12 years. And I left the fitness industry in 2014. And I wanted to do nothing but get back to working with my hands. In the buffalo, there was this beautiful combination of being able to build something, being able to see it, and really combining your brain and your hands. And not to digress, but the amount of real estate that occupies your brain to innervate your hand, and when you combine the two of them to create something, I missed that. So quite literally, I just wanted to come back to the land. So we sold all the buffalo, sold all the equipment, but maintained the land. All right. It had since overgrown. There was a lot of chaos, a lot of fences that needed cleaned up. So I just started doing it. And I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up. I'm not joking. And I stumbled on some concepts of permaculture. If you're involved in the parks, you probably know the concept of permaculture, and that is layering systems of symbiotic interactions, multi-species interactions, and together they work better, right? So you plant this tree with these kinds of insect attractors, pollinators, and these repellent species, well, that tree thrives better. Well, I found some people that were applying that same idea to the landscape of livestock production. So, for instance, if you run cattle across this land, then shortly thereafter you run egg-laying chickens, well, those egg-laying chickens are going to clean up the fly larvae that are hatching inside of that cow pat, therefore reducing your needs for these toxic chemicals and stuff. And I was enthralled by it because the idea of permaculture, that first year, call it 2014, 15-ish, thereabouts, I never saw anybody being able to monetize it. The only people monetizing permaculture were the ones that were teaching it. Nobody was actually producing something that was monetizing it. And all through my life, I've never been able to monetize content, okay? So I said, wow, livestock. And then I found this guy that was actually taking meat chickens that they grow in these humongous barns, these same species, and actually grazing them in fields, right? Moving them daily to across the field. And I said, wow, that is slick, because then all of a sudden that chicken manure fertilizes the grass, which then grows more grass to feed the cattle. And so this cycle, and I was just enthralled by it. So in 2016, I said, wow, let's try. Let's see what happens. And we started off, and I'll never forget this. We had no refrigerator space, so we started our first round of broiler meat chickens. Moved them every day, fed them. They were gorgeous. And we butchered them here on the farm, and we had every single one of them sold before I had even tasted them. And I'll never forget this. Me and my daughter were sitting across the table. We saved like 5 of them for us, right? And I grilled up some leg quarters. And I was terrified that I had just ruined my business because I've never tasted what I just sold everything of. So we're sitting down to eat dinner, and I cut in to mine and I took a bite. And then I watched my daughter cut into it and took a bite. And I looked at her and we looked at each other and we go, this is the best chicken I've ever had in my life. And then that formed the foundation. We're like, oh, wow, this is amazing. Yeah, we're on to something. So that's the start. And
that's really
each
cool.
year what we've done is my wife and I have always, as you can see by the surroundings, we live a very modest, I don't live in this house, okay? I don't live here. This is our office. But we live very modestly, so that means we reinvest every penny of profit back into the organization. So if you do that now for year after year after year, and that money begins to find its home into the right assets, the right processes, the right people, well then, yeah, you grow every year. And
what all are you raising here?
We do. So here on this land, we do our poultry and our pork. So that's our turkeys, that is our free-range egg-laying chickens. So we produce eggs, and we also raise our pasture-raised broiler chickens. Those are your meat chickens. We lease land in Holmes County. We lease 2 pieces of property in Holmes County where we do all of our grass-fed beef cattle. We also just started a raw milk herd share. We administrate a raw milk herd share, so unpasteurized raw milk. I don't know how much we should talk about that, but no, it's perfectly legit. You sign a contract, and you own a share of the herd. We also do organically produced vegetables.
Nice. That's a lot.
It is, but what's interesting, Dan, is I took these structures that I learned from business back in the fitness industry, right? And I learned structures of how to best build teams, and I applied those to farming. There's a big misconception within farming and what we do in these environments that you have to do everything. You're the farmer, you do everything, and you have to make sure. Well, I didn't follow that. What I do, as a matter of fact, is I find the best person to do it, and then we form a joint venture partnership structure and let that person do it better, and then we do what we do, right? So we do the poultry, the pork, we do the beef, the vegetables. We have people working for us. So we have employees, you know.
How many family members work?
5 of us full-time here.
Okay, your
5.
wife and your 2 daughters?
That's right.
And one of their husbands? Is that
That's
right?
correct, yeah.
Okay.
So back in 2017, when you wrote that repository
Your
article,
girls were like 14 and 15.
Yeah.
But they were working the farm.
they were, but they were also going to school. And when they finished school, this is what's exciting, Dan, is when they finished school, those 2 girls could have gone to any university they wanted in the world. The point is they're smart, but they chose to be farmers. And that goes back to that idea that I talked about, combining your head and your hand, the creativity that's involved. Because not only are we raising chickens, well, we're butchering chickens, we're selling chickens. What is the business strategy to make sure that, oh my God, we've got all of these legs and thighs, what do we do? You know, so they have, and this is now their 4th full year, I want to say. And what's interesting is when you said early on that you've been growing little bits here and there, this didn't really take off until my wife Erin, my daughter Sierra, and my daughter Morgan came on board full time. And that capacity had a massive impact on our growth. Yeah. So there's me, my wife Erin, my daughter Sierra, my other daughter Morgan, her husband Logan, and little Dylan John was just born on this property in March.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
I'm a grandpa.
I know. That's exciting. That's really exciting.
It is. It's crazy to think about.
Well, tell us a little bit. You mentioned the demand right out of the gate for the chickens. They were sold, sounds like, before you could even butcher them. So it sounds like that's continued, and it sounds like a great thing, but also a challenge for you as well.
It's extremely challenging because when you sell, like let's just say we sell out of ribeye steaks, which we do. We don't call up the food distributor and say, hey, send us 100 more next week. We have an entire pipeline coming on. Like, our cattle production for next year is set. It's done. Our chicken production for this year, it's set. It's done. We can't change it.
Right.
So if you, selling it is fantastic. Selling it's amazing. But there's also problems associated with that, because when folks who rely on us for their primary food source don't have that, well, that hits me hard, So we try to keep up with that, but we also don't sacrifice our methodologies in the way that we produce food in order to scale it to a point to meet the demand. So that throws in another curveball, which is the way in which we do things is uncompromising. And that goes to our mission statement. Our mission is to heal relationships with land and animals. And then we share that healing through the food it produces with the people who buy it. So what happens is, like we were talking earlier, somebody who begins down this road of conscious consumption, and that's kind of what I call it, is conscious consumption. I'm aware that the life, this is what I say, I almost called him the wrong name.
Derek.
It's all right.
Derek.
I've been called a lot worse than the wrong name, so you're good.
Like I was telling you earlier, Derek, I like to say that we actually don't consume calories. We consume life. And it's that life that becomes us. So the way that life is brought into this world and handled has a direct impact on our own life. Okay, so we focus on healing that relationship with land and animals, and then we share that. Am I talking too much?
No,
Dan?
I love the concept.
We're here to interview you.
Yeah, and you talk about your mission, but I know you also have other partners, not just on the property, or folks who are helping get the food into the hands of the consumer. But you have some other partners. I know they're bread, ice cream. I guess, how do you identify those partners that meet your mission?
They have to share the mission.
Okay.
Pure and simple. Pure and simple. They have to be on board. Because for us, money is a byproduct. Money's never the goal. Money comes when you do something right and well. I know a lot of people that chase money, but guess what? Money runs faster. If you're chasing money, you'll never catch it. You'll always want more and more. But what we do is we focus on that mission. So our bread people, Joe, we've worked with him now for years. Kind of met him at a farmer's market. So we know that man puts his heart and soul into it. He's not trying to make a quick buck. He's not trying to cut corners. The ingredients that he uses are the finest. And a lot of the ingredients come from Holmes County, grains produced in Holmes County. So that's how we do that. The kombucha, it's not a big thing for us, but the man that produces that is the man that he doesn't buy into our specific mission, but he does. He lives it. Yeah, that's how we do it. We could very easily sell a lot of stuff just like that, and we would reap massive profits, but that would go against the long-term vision of what we have, and that is for that young boy Dylan John to have a foundation to feed the children of the people who are coming to us today. That's the long-term vision. This is a multi-generational plan. And when I say that this is a 100-year plan, a lot of people go, right? Well, I just want to put that into perspective. I've been on this land now for 40 years. There are trees that I planted on this land when I was a boy that were this big around. They're this now. So I've seen what 40 years does. So the fact that Dylan John, if that young man lives, and we've been into this, if that young man lives his full life here and has children, that 100 years happens in his generation.
Yeah.
You see?
So you grew up on this very property.
I did.
Okay.
I did. Moved to here when I was 8 years old, and I grew up raising buffalo. It was my dad's hobby when he started, and he wanted to buy a few heifer calves, and then it turned into a business for my brother and I. Yeah.
So I can tell the wheels are always turning, which is exciting. I can relate to that. So you talked about a 100-year plan. What other ideas do you have out here? Because I'm sure you have lots.
I would say that right now we're so focused on executing the plan for this year. That is our 100% focus. But in my wife and I, in our hearts, what we really, really want to do for us, when our children, I realized this, when Dylan John was born in March and everything changed, I was like, oh, I got 15 years of this, because if both of my daughters want to have children, it's a 15-year window of them not being able to focus on this business and grow it. I got 15 years. So that was a pill that I needed to swallow in the past few weeks. But my wife and I really enjoy reaching people and helping them navigate the myriad of choices with food, and helping people to navigate, how do I get this to feel like $1 million? Because so many people are sick. So many people have bowel issues, skin issues, and we've seen these things cured through food, through these. So my wife and I would love to do seminars where we invite people to the land, to the land to stay for a retreat for like 3 days, and actually have the connection physically, emotionally, and spiritually with these animals, because being around and just watching pigs do what they do, it is healing. And I know that sounds esoteric and cosmic kumbaya, but it's real. To sit and just watch animals do what they do and be a part of that, and then to work, so we want to, that's a dream, but that dream has not fully come into vision yet. Right now it's farmers, food, and how do you navigate that to deal with the demand that's out there.
Well, I know I had a big win this week that I had like a mason bee house where mason bees actually came in on their own. We have enough pollinators in our yard this year so I can only imagine what it feels like to have this level of success when I'm just happy to get a couple of bees to take an interest in my backyard.
But that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. See, that's, I really encourage people to do stuff with their hands beyond this, okay? Take that, and it's one of the reasons why I love backyard chickens, because a chicken is something that somebody can care for, somebody can have a relationship with. And then the other thing, and I know this sounds crazy, but that chicken's gonna die. And I'm not joking, to come to terms that death is actually part of life, and not be afraid of it, and begin to confront these things that are realities of life. And that's what I love. And so that's part of the passion of bringing people here, is to experience these things, that the farm really puts you into touch with the real raw aspects of life. I don't have time for social conversations. I don't know what's going on in the news. It doesn't matter, because what matters today is, are those pigs happy where they're at? Because if they're not, they're going to get out of the fence, get in the friggin' neighbor's place and tear their yard up. Right? So if you have bees, that's fantastic. Immerse yourself into it and just get lost in it. It's worth it, and that productive, it's something to do with your hands. And it's also something to do with your thumbs. You can look up, well, what's that guy doing with his bees? Oh, that's neat. What happens when I multiply my hive by 2 and 4? What happens when I factor that out? So there you see that combination between the brain and the hand and doing. So you're getting to experience that, and that's fantastic.
Well, we really appreciate you having us. This is just sharing your passion and seeing everything that's going on here, how your whole family's involved. This is a really cool operation, and I hope others will get a chance to come visit.
If someone wants to find out more about ZOE Farms, do you have like a website that...
We do. It's super simple. It's ZOE, and it's ZOEFarms.com. And before I leave, Zoe is a Greek word that means life.
Okay.
Zoe is not a person. Zoe's not a girl. Zoe is the Greek word that means life. So it's ZOEFarms.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you again.
All right.
And,
thanks a lot.
Hope everybody enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next time on What's Up Start.